Hello everyone, this is Dave from Dave's Recent Things. For today, since we didn't get a Wreathster Week 2026, I thought I'm going to go through my past videos and do a little compilation of some of my favorite Wreathster Week wreaths. Why don't I just get started and I'll show you what I picked out. Today I am using the 14-inch wire wreath frame from the Dollar Tree, also from Dollarama, 2.5-inch wired ribbon, and I found these pom-pom garlands at the Dollarama and I was like, this is going to make such a fun, colorful wreath, so I had to buy those, and this little plush toy, our little rabbit, with carrots. And of course I'm going to be using my usual crafting tools today. And all I'm going to do to start off is I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to glue down that front portion just so I can wrap that ribbon all the way around. And what I'm doing with this is you don't necessarily have to do this. I'm just doing this to kind of make the wreath wireframe disappear in the background and to actually have more space, let's say, to glue down everything. I'm finishing off my first ribbon roll. I'm going to glue that down. And then I'm going to glue on my second ribbon roll. So I used one and a little bit of the 2.5-inch wired ribbon. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to chop it off, the excess, and then glue down that final piece. And I'm all set with my base wreath to start gluing down those beautiful, colorful pom-poms. Look at these. I just love them. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart and then get the string out of there as well. And look how great these look. I think they are so fun, such a great idea. You can even do a couple of these, put them together and decorate for Easter. And all I did was I took the string out of all of them. I opened up 2 packages to start with, and I'm just gonna start using a whole bunch of hot glue and gluing those pom-poms down right on that ribbon wrapped wreath frame. Nice and easy, nice and simple. I hold them in place as they dry just to make sure they don't go anywhere, and I can just continue on adding and adding and adding more pom-poms as I go. And once I'm done, look how plush and colorful this is. I couldn't stop touching it. It was so soft, it was so fuzzy. I just love it. And I hope you do as well. Here is our little friend. I'm just going to cut off all of the tags on them and just make sure everything's all nice and neat. And now I start playing around with placement of my little rabbit friend here. I didn't know exactly how I wanted to put him in place. I knew I kind of wanted him to hold a carrot or two maybe, and kind of like just sit back, relax, and enjoy his little carrot. So I'm just playing around here, trying to figure out where I want him to go. And once I figure that out, I'm going to start gluing down the carrot to make it look like he's holding it underneath his arm. And then I'm going to just glue down his ears in place where I have it all. And I'm just going to hold everything in place for a little bit to make sure it all it all dries. And then I'm going to add more glue down just to make sure he's not going to go anywhere. Gluing down his legs, trying to figure out what's a good position, what would be a comfortable position for him. And finally, I'm going to add on one more carrot, just like he's holding on to it. He's like, look at the carrots I have. I'm so excited I have my carrots. And then just final touches of gluing everything down, making sure it's not going to go anywhere, and doing a final look-see to see how I like it. And then look at that face with that smile, because he's got his 2 carrots, our pom-poms, making this fuzzy, colorful Easter wreath. As usual, I'm going to be using a 14-inch round wire wreath frame, and I found this 9.5-inch wide multicolored deco mesh. I have 2 rolls of that, along with a roll of pink and a roll of lavender. And this 2.5-inch wired ribbon, it comes in various colors. I have 4 colors, solid, and then this checkered one as well that I'm going to use. And look, another bunny butt with ears. That bunny butt is a theme this Easter for me for sure. Along with some pipe cleaners and some decorative carrots. These colorful eggs, these are chalk eggs. They're nice, they're beautiful. I love these. And of course, I'm going to be using my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. I am starting off cutting up my deco mesh. I'm going to be using 10-inch cuts today. So I am cutting all of my deco mesh in 10-inch strips. I am layering the pink and the lavender and cutting them at the same time. Again, that's at 10 inches, so I'm cutting those at the 10-inch mark. I'm going to double up on the multicolor deco mesh and again cut at that 10-inch mark, creating bundles for our deco mesh curly wreath. I'm going to be making 30 bundles in total. Each bundle has 3 pieces of deco mesh, so that's 90 pieces at 10 inches. Now, my multicolored one is 45 pieces, lavender is 23, the pink is 22, and the total mesh you need is about 25 yards. So again, I am making a lot of bundles today. Those bundles are going onto our going onto our wreath frame. So there's a little bit of cutting. Once we have everything cut, I'm using half of a pipe cleaner to create our bundle. And each bundle, like I said previously, I have 3 pieces of deco mesh. So I'm taking 1 multicolor, 1 lavender, and 1 pink deco mesh. So again, 3 pieces of deco mesh cut at 10 inches and 1 pipe cleaner cut in half to create 1 bundle. And this is the curly method. So I'm going to use the natural curve of the deco mesh facing up. The cut portions are at the top and the bottom, and the factory edges are on the left and the right hand side. And all you're going to do is curl that up into a nice tube shape, following the natural curl. Then we're just going to go right in the middle and squish it together. I like to hold it right in between my 2 fingers, but if you don't want to do that, you can always use a clothespin, a large paper clip. You can just put that on there, put it right to the side, and then grab your second piece of deco mesh. Again, with the curl facing up, the cut edges at the top and the bottom, and then you just make that tube, squish it together, and you can put it through your fingers. You can put it into your clothespin if you want. I prefer my fingers, so I'm going to work that way. But if you don't want to use your fingers, you can totally use that clothespin, or like I said, a really large paper clip as well. Once you get all rolls, there's 3 of them there, into your fingers. You're going to take that pipe cleaner. I usually like to bend mine in half at the middle. Slide that along the palm of your hand, transferring the deco mesh to your right hand and the pipe cleaners in your left. Then you can give it a couple of really good twists. Make sure it's all nice and secure, and our first bundle is all made. So again, we're using 3 pieces of deco mesh. You're going to curl your deco mesh into a tube shape, place it in between your fingers or your clothespin. Second piece going in, and now the final piece is going in. And then you take that pipe cleaner, slide it along your fingers, and twist it, creating our beautiful little bundle. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create the rest of my bundles here. Again, I'm creating 30 bundles in total of 3 pieces of deco mesh within each bundle. These are the colors I chose. You can choose whatever colors you want. But now we have our bundles ready, and I'm going to be using those 2 inside wires. And within each section, there's going to be 5 bundles. So that's using that inside 2 wires with our bundles. First, let's put that frame face side down. And then I'm going to get my first bundle, and I'm going to open up my pipe cleaners a little bit. And I'm going to place them such that those 2 inner wires are in between that pipe cleaner. And then all you do is you give it a couple of really good twists, make sure it's nice and secure in there, and we've attached our first bundle. I'm going to continue with the same method, opening up my stems, placing it right in between, making sure that those 2 wires are in between those 2 stems of the pipe cleaner, And then you're just going to twist, twist, twist till your heart's content. Now here I'm adding all 5 of my bundles within my section, making sure it's nice and even, flip it over, and look at this already. I mean, this is just one section. Look how full, look how vibrant it is. I mean, does that not just scream Easter? I think it does. So I'm going to continue on adding those bundles onto my wreath frame and putting my last ones in here. We are almost finished. Cutting off those excess. I usually put a little hot glue down on the pipe cleaner. Totally optional if you don't want to. I like to do it. And then, of course, once it's dry, we flip it over, and that's my favorite part. I love seeing the finished product. And look at this. Our beautiful curly loop base deco mesh, and you can decorate it any way you want. That is the beauty part of making wreaths. Today I'm going to show you a couple of different ways, but first I'm going to make our bow. So with my first ribbon, I'm I'm squishing our fabric and ribbon at the 12-inch mark, placing it in between my fingers. Then I'm going to line it with the 0 again and come at the 12 and do the same thing. This time I'm going to create a little loop, bringing it right back to my left hand. So I have a loop and a tail. We're going to give it a little twist to make sure that good side is facing up. And I'm going to do that 12-inch mark again. And that's creating another loop. So I'm going to create 3 loops at the 12-inch mark, which is going to create 6-inch loops. And then we're going to have 2 tails. So this is our final tail at 12 inches. I'm going to grab my scissors and cut at that 12-inch mark. Now I'm going to take a full-size pipe cleaner, and I'm just going to wrap it around the center where I was holding that ribbon. Give it a couple of good twists. Make sure it's nice and secure. And of course, we have those 3 big, beautiful loops so far, along with our tails. And I'm just going to finish tails off by dovetailing them, just cutting them on an angle. Our second ribbon now, I'm going to be doing the exact same method, but this time I'm going to go at 11 inches. So I'm creating an 11-inch tail. I'm creating 11-inch loops, which is 5.5-inch loops, really. And then I'm cutting at the 11-inch mark, adding that twist tie on here, twisting it around, and then I'm going to dovetail those ends. And we're going to keep adding on ribbons and reducing our length of ribbon. This time we're going at the 10-inch mark. So we started at 12, we did an 11, now we're on 10-inch, and this is the multicolor ribbon that I'm using here. And it's the exact same pattern that we're using all throughout for this bow. I'm just adding different layers, different colors. Here is the lavender at the 9-inch mark, which is creating 4.5-inch loops, and again another 9-inch tail, cutting it there, adding that pipe cleaner on, and then we're going to finish off those tails by cutting on an angle to create the dovetails. This is our last one at 8 inches. And again, I'm following the same method as I made the first one at 12 inches. I'm just reducing each layer by 1 inch, and then I'm cutting off the tails, attaching those pipe cleaners, and making those finished edges with my scissors. So here we have all of our layers, starting with the largest one, and then that's just the blue color, solid blue color. I still have those long pipe cleaners on there, and then all I do to attach our second layer is just wrap the pipe cleaner around the back, twist it a couple times, cut off the excess, and then flip it over again. And then you can see our first attachment. I'm just going to lay it flat, and I'm just going to fluff it up a little bit, make sure it's laying the way I want it to lay, and then I'm just going to continue on adding my layers as I go. So I'm starting with the largest and working down to the smallest. So here is my 9-inch one that we created, twisting it around the back, and then our final attachment is that beautiful pink ribbon. Now this ribbon was amazing to work with. I loved it. It's got like a little frilly edges on it, so I thought that was a great detail. But here we go. All of our layers are attached, and now it is time to fluff our bows. We all know I love it. You all comment about it, and then I know some of you out there love fluffing bows just as much as I do. But here is our final result of our bow ready for our wreath. We're going to bring our wreath back, and today's focal point is our bunny butt. So this bunny butt, I apologize greatly. I do not know where I got this. I know I got it online. I can't remember if it was Amazon or AliExpress, but it comes with little strings to attach it. So all I'm doing is I'm placing that bunny butt right in the center, feeding the strings through, and then I'm just going to tie at the back and then cut off that excess. Now with the ears, what I decided to do was to take off those strings. I actually preferred to use the hot glue for this. I wanted it a little bit more secure than just the strings. So I cut the strings off, placed my glue gun on there. I actually placed the hot glue on the ears, not the glue gun. And then boom, here we go. We have our little bunny butt with the ears. Now I'm going to attach our bow using the same method, just feeding that large pipe cleaner that we originally put on there through the back, twisting it, and I'm just going to play around and again fluff up my bow. And I want to make sure those tails don't cover up that bunny butt because I really want everybody to see that little tail and those carrots. And here is the finished product with our little bow, I should say our huge bow, and our little bunny butt. Now here you can totally stop if you want. You don't have to add any more embellishments on there. Let the deco mesh speak for itself. It's one option you can choose just to let the deco mesh speak for itself, or you can do another option like I'm doing here, where you can add more ribbon all around the deco mesh. This ribbon I cut into 14-inch strips. I dovetailed the ends of them, and each little bundle has 3 14-inch strips of ribbon connected or put together. And then all I'm doing is I'm feeding that pipe cleaner right through the back, and then I'm going to grab those carrots and I'm going to place those carrots and hot glue them just around a little bit. But of course, you know, I have to fluff up the bow first. But here you go. Here is another option where it has full amounts of ribbon all over the place. The deco mesh is hidden a little bit more so you don't see it. And then of course the pop of those orange with the carrots breaks up those pastel colors a little bit. But our focal point is still there with our bunny butt, with its ears. We just have a little bit more embellishment on there with those added ribbon bundles, those added carrots. Just another idea of how you can finish a base deco mesh wreath. And here's another option as well. If you didn't want to use the ribbon, but you wanted to add a little bit more to the deco mesh, you can add some colorful eggs. And again, you can add those carrots as well. So we have 3 different ways you can finish this beautiful loop, curly loop, however you want to call it, base deco mesh wreath for Easter. You can add the ribbon, you can add the eggs, you can add the carrots, or you don't have to add anything at all. It's up to you. I'm going to be using the carrot wreath frame from the Dollar Tree and these orange cotton ropes that I got from Dollarama. Now, if you don't have the cotton ropes, you can use the normal natural cotton ropes, add a little bit of water and acrylic paint, and you can just paint right on top of that to get you that orange look. Along with some of this leaf garland. And of course, look at how cute this little bunny is. He's super soft. He's waving hello to everyone out there. This 1.5-inch wired ribbon and then a smaller ribbon that's carrot themed, along with some of my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. I'm going to start off with my carrot wreath frame, and I've unraveled my cotton rope, laid down some hot glue on the actual wire. I'm going to lay down some more hot glue and then bring that edge right over it. That's going to be our anchor and our starting position. And then I'm going to glue more right on the back side. And then to glue the rope on there, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue on the rope below and the rope on top, just to make sure it's secured around the back and it's secured to the rope above it. So again, a little hot glue on the rope below, a little hot glue on the rope above. I'm going to squish it all together, add a little bit of hot glue every now and then on the corner of the wire frame, just to make sure that nothing is going to come apart. We don't want this wreath to unravel. So I'm just going to basically do that whole routine, that whole method of procedure over and over again, gluing everything down at the bottom and at the top. And then once I come to the edge, I'm actually just going to glue the rope above on the side, and then I'm going to add that rope right in there. I'm going to add a little more hot glue on there, and then I'm just going to grab my next rope end and place that in the hot glue, and then boom, I'm just going to continue that same method of gluing the bottom rope, gluing the top rope together, and wrapping that all the way around right until I get to the very bottom. And once I get to the bottom, I'm just going to use a lot more hot glue to make sure those ropes stick onto that wire and get that little pointed shape right at the end. And once I get that, I'm just going to curl it around, flip that wreath over, add some more hot glue, and then just glue my edge right in place. Hold it there for a little bit to dry to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. And boom, we have our carrot shape already, and it's nice and soft. Now to hang this, I'm going to be using a cable tie. I'm just going to wrap it around the very top wire, close it a little bit, get a nice little loop going, cut the excess off, and then you can just hang that on your hook or your nail or wherever you want to hang it. And then, of course, a carrot's not a carrot with all that greenery right up top. And this was perfect. This is a leafy garland that I purchased from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to actually place some glue on the wire frame and then kind of bend it around a little bit just to cover a little bit of that orange at the top there. I want it to be green, so I want to cover it. And then I'm just going to take all those little leaf off the main stem and start gluing those down, really filling in all of that area right at the top. I want it to be full of green, full of madness, greenness, just looking like a carrot. And of course, once it's all glued down, we have that massive bunch of green right at the top, and I am loving it, how it's turning out. So now we're going to add just a little bit of a bow on there. I originally just wanted to do the orange, but I found this burlap, which I think will be a nice contrast, and I'm going to cut this at the 15-inch mark. Now, this is burlap that I got from the Dollar Tree a little while ago. You can use any type of burlap that you want, or if you want to go to the Dollar Tree and buy some. And then I'm just going to use that orange and white polka dotted ribbon as well, cut at 15 inches. So for our cut lengths, ribbon number 1, there's 2 pieces cut at 15 inches, that's the burlap. Ribbon number 2 is 2 pieces cut at 15 inches, that's the orange and white polka dot. And the smaller one, which is the carrot burlap one, we'll show you that in just a little bit, 1 piece at about 5 inches. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlay the orange polka dotted one with the burlap with some hot glue, gluing it down right at the center. I just use a couple of little dots of hot glue. I'm not going to go too crazy. I just want to make sure it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to glue those together in little cylinder shapes to create our little bow. And then I'm just going to lay those flat on a crisscross pattern. And then what I'm going to do is grab a little pipe cleaner, and right down the middle, I'm just going to squish it all together, place it in my left hand, and then wrap that pipe cleaner around. Give it a couple of really good twists so it's not going to go anywhere. Take a look at it, make sure it looks good, and then we're just going to cut off that excess. Here is that carrot themed burlap wreath. I'm going to glue that right on top of our pipe cleaner so that hides it. I'm going to glue it at the front, glue it at the back, chop off the excess, glue the last piece down, and then chop off the excess once that's all dry as well. And there you go. Our little bow for our carrot wreath is all ready. And to attach it, I'm actually just going to use a whole bunch of hot glue on there. If you wish, you can use a ribbon or a pipe cleaner and tie it through the top wire. I wanted it down a little bit, so I just decided to use some hot glue. And then I thought it just needed a little bit more, so I'm going to cut a couple more little pieces of that carrot ribbon, and then I'm going to dovetail the edges, and then all I'm going to do is hot glue those little tails right underneath my bow, and that just adds a little pizzazz to our little carrot wreath. I think it looks just beautiful with those little ribbons. And here's our cute little guy, and I was trying to figure out how to put him on there. I knew I wanted to put a bunny on there. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. and I was just kind of playing around with it, and I was kind of thinking I love it at the back and the side, but it's too bulky. So I kind of just thought, you know what, let's just cut them in half and we'll attach them on there. So I got all the tags off and I start to go cut them, and I couldn't cut it. I just felt so bad. I mean, I know it's a stuffed animal. I know it's not real, but you can see me picking up my scissors, playing with him, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with him. And I'm like trying to get the courage to cut him 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, and I just couldn't do it. Eventually I did, and I took some stuffing out of the body, glued it together so no more stuffing would fall out, and then I'm just going to add more hot glue to glue him right to the back. So it looks like he's clinging on to that huge carrot because he wants to eat that huge carrot. He wants to take it home for dinner. And now I'm just going to glue his hands on there, or paws, I should say, just to make sure he's nice and secure and he's holding on to dear life with that carrot. And there you go. We have our little dude hanging on to his dinner, that big, huge carrot, and of course that pretty little bow right up there with all that greenery at the top. One more look at our little friend here and our huge carrot. I'm going to be using these egg rounds that are made out of wood. Now they have a pattern on one side. I'm not going to use this side. I'm actually going to be using the flat side, along with these florals in multiple colors, multiple styles. We've got some tulips in there, some little mini roses. I'm using a couple of acrylic paints, lavender and daffodil yellow, along with a wide bristled paintbrush. And I'm going to be using some white acrylic paint as a primer, multiple ribbons, so patterns, colors, sizes. There's 2.5 inch, there's 1 inch, and I'm going to be using my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. I'm going to start off with the wooden egg shape, and I'm going to actually prime it first. So I'm laying down a lot of white paint, and I'm using my paintbrush just to make a nice even layer. And then once that's done, I'm going to let that fully dry. And once that is all dry, I'm going to come in with that lavender color, and I'm just going to place that right down, and I'm going to create another nice thick coat, filling up that whole space with this beautiful lavender color. Now, I'm using lavender. You can use any color that you want, like the yellow that I showed you earlier. And once I'm done that, I'm going to let that completely dry as well. Once it's all dry, I've picked out my ribbon that I'm going to use. This is a 2.5 inch Easter ribbon. I'm just going to cut the length of the width of the egg, and I'm just going to kind of figure out where I want to place it. And I also know that I'm going to use a couple of that pink color, so I'm going to cut those, and then 1 strip of that sheer lavender ribbon. I'm going to start off just placing that 2.5 inch ribbon down first, kind of getting an idea where I want to place it, a little bit in the center. I'm going to flip it over, add some hot glue, and then what I'm going to do is flip it over again. And to make sure it lays nice and flat, I'm going to put an ever so light bead of glue down on both edges, flip that over, and then I'm just going to trace over it with my hand, making it nice and flat. And then I'm just going to attach it to the back with some more hot glue, laying that in place. And we've got our first ribbon down, and now I'm going to layer it with the pink. First, I'm just going to glue it right in the center so I get an idea of where it's going to go. And I'm going to do a second one as well, right below that first one, and do the same procedures where I add a little bit of glue down just to make sure they lay nice and flat. And then I do the second one the same way. I'm going to flip that over once I do both sides and add some hot glue onto the back. And then I'm just going to glue those right in place and trim off the excess so it looks a little bit better on the opposite side. And then we do the other side as well, the same thing, just chopping off that excess after we glue it. And now I'm going to place that sheer lavender color ribbon right in the center. And again, an ever so small amount of glue, laying it down flat. And then I'm going to glue it on the back, trim off the excess. And once we're done, we have our little ribbon all ready and in place. Now that that's all dry, we're ready to go with our florals. So I'm just going to take apart my florals and I'm going to cut a little bit of the stem right at the back there. I want these florals to lay a little bit flatter. I'm going to take some greenery, and I like to create little piles of all of my florals and all of my greenery and have everything around me as I'm creating it. And my idea was to do a little bit of a cluster of florals right in the center. So I'm adding those cosmos flowers, I'm adding some tulips, just really layering it down, creating a whole bundle of those floral. Now you can use any florals that you want. These are the ones that I chose for this project. But again, you can choose any type of florals that you want. I'm adding some greenery in there. I love using greenery to break up a little bit of the colors and just to add a little bit of that wonderful green color in there. And now I'm adding those little pink roses. They're mini roses, and I think it's just turning out so well. Let's add some more greenery using those ferns. I love to add interest to my florals, so using different greeneries and different florals always adds a lot of interest. Here we are with our final little floral bundle. I am just in love with how this turned out, and to hang it, there is an existing hole there already right at the top that I've painted over. So I'm just going to cut a length of ribbon that matches, use my X-Acto tool just to kind of carve out that hole. And then I'm just going to take a little wire that I had cut from a floral stem and feed that ribbon right through that hole that we just created. I'm going to pull that through. I'm going to tie the end, chop off the excess, and then we have just created a little hook or hanger for our wreath to go on our front door or wherever you want to hang it. Here is our beautiful lavender egg-shaped wooden floral decor door hanger. Say that 10 times fast. With all of our florals, all of that ribbon, I just love how this turned out. I am using a 14-inch round wire wreath frame, along with 10-inch deco mesh. These I just had laying around the house, so I thought I would use them. This wooden cutout bunny, some self-adhesive wall tiles that are embossed, this little wooden box, these little wooden hearts we're going to use today, and of course I'm using 2.5-inch wired ribbon, and this rust color 2.5-inch wired ribbon as well. Along with these pastel color eggs, I had these laying around the house as well. A lot of the items I'm using today, I just kind of had laying around, so I thought I'd throw together a nice easy wreath. And to start off, what I'm doing is I'm taking these self-adhesive tile and I'm just cutting off a sliver at the very end. And what that'll do is that'll allow me to take apart the embossed section from the self-adhesive backing on that tile. I don't want to use the backing, I just want to use the tile. And then I'm going to take our little wooden bunny cutout and trace around and cut around using my Sharpie and then using my scissors to cut out that tile in that bunny shape that is on the wooden cutout. Once that's all done, I'm going to use some tacky glue right on that wooden base there. And the reason why I'm using tacky glue is because I don't want to have the glue stick so quickly. So if I used hot glue, we all know it sticks so fast. So I wanted to have time to lay down that adhesive, put it in place, and make sure it stays. So once I just spread that glue around, I'm going to fiddle around with it, getting that tile on how I want it. And then once that tile's all down, I'm just going to use some of my scrapbooks. And these scrapbooks, a lot of questions from you all out there ask me where I get my ideas, how do I get my ideas. So a lot of the time I will use scrapbooks just to write down and jot down some ideas. So there you go. I'm just using these scrapbooks to hold it in place. Once it's all dry, I'm going to take some white acrylic paint, and I'm using quite a bit of it. I'm going to use this as a primer for my final coat. So right here you can kind of see I'm just basically painting on that primer coat, getting it nice and thick. Once it's all painted, I'm just going to let that fully dry before I do my final color. And here is that final color. It is a nice pastel green. I'm going to paint the entire surface and the sides, and again, let that completely dry as well. My final step is I'm just going to take a paintbrush and do a little dry brushing to really bring out that embossed tile. So I'm just dipping my paintbrush into that paint a little bit and very, very lightly going across the top of that embossed, really bringing out that texture, bringing out that pattern. And I just love the look of this. It looks so beautiful with that dark brown. Now I am just very, very lightly, as you can see here, I'm not pressing into the surface. I'm just doing it very lightly on the surface all the way around, really just covering that embossed texture with that paintbrush and that dark brown. Once I get the effect that I'm looking for, I just let that dry fully, and then we can continue on with our project. Now here are my wooden hearts, and you might be thinking, why am I using wooden hearts? And I'm just going to mix a little bit of beige and a little bit of neon pink to get the pale pink color that I'm looking for. And what I'm actually going to be using this heart for is the nose of our bunny. Yes, there is a method to my madness here, and once that's painted, I'm going to let it dry completely before we move on. And now I'm going to do some more painting of the box. I'm taking some water and some brown. This is a really dark brown acrylic paint again. And I'm going to mix that together to the consistency of about a thick chocolate milk, if you will. And then I'm just going to paint the sides. And I'm also going to paint the bottom portion of this. And as well, I'm going to paint the inside of my box. And once I get all of that painted, I'm just going to let that dry as well with all the other projects. And then I'm going to start off with cutting my deco mesh, and I'm cutting at 20 inches today. I have two colors. I have this beige color and I also have a multicolored one. And I'm just going to use my rotary cutter and cut that at 20-inch lengths. I'm doing 8 of the solid color, and here is my multicolored. I'm going to cut at 20 inches again, and I'm going to cut 8 lengths of that 20 inches. So again, our deco mesh cut lengths, we have mesh number 1 with 8 pieces cut at 20 inches, and mesh number 2, I have 8 pieces cut at 20 inches. So that's a total of 16 pieces of deco mesh cut at the 20-inch mark. Before we attach anything, I'm going to create a working wreath frame using my frame and pipe cleaners, and I'm going to be working on the 2 outside wires first, and I'm just going to wrap that pipe cleaner around the anchor and those 2 outside wires. Just give it a couple of good twists. I'm not going to cut that pipe cleaner, and then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to use this, a clock sample, let's say, a clock example. I'm going to start at the 12 o'clock, add one at the 6 o'clock, then I'm going to add one at the 3 o'clock, and the 9 o'clock as well. And that's going to create the outside of our working frame. Once I do that, I'm going to come in and add more right in between the 2 pipe cleaners that I've placed right in the middle. So now we have a total of 8 stems on the outside. Once we have those 8 stems all set into place, I'm going to start just by adding a little bit of hot glue right on the sides, just to make sure it's nice and secure and that it doesn't go anywhere. So this is totally optional. You don't have to do this, but I like to do it to make sure those stems don't go anywhere. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to use the 2 inside wires now and place my inside round of my stems right in between the 2 outside stems. So it's the same process. I'm just adding those pipe cleaners on there, twisting it around a little bit, adding some hot glue to make sure they stay in place. And once I'm done, I have a total of 16 stems, 8 on the inside, 8 on the outside. And this is a side view of how that should look once you're completed. And then of course, now it's time to add that mesh. Here is my 20-inch cut mesh. I'm just going to flip it over So the curl faces down. I'm going to use a pair of scissors as an anchor, and then I'm just going to work at the bottom portion. So at the bottom we have the cut piece, and then on the two sides we have the finished factory edges. At the bottom, let's just flip it under a little bit, and then I'm just going to press that down, kind of creating a little bit of a crease. Then I'm going to use my two thumbs as anchors right in the middle, hold that down, and then my fingers are all free to do some walking. And what we're going to do is we're going to go right up that middle using our 8 fingers, and we are just going to walk up as we gather that mesh right in between our fingers and our thumbs. And it's really nice and easy. You just walk up right to the center, collecting all of that mesh. Once you get to the top, we have another cut edge. So I'm going to flip it under, just like we did right at the beginning, and then add that to our ruffle so we can hide those cut edges. Then we find our middle, we're going to fluff it up a little bit, and then we're just going to add that right in between those 2 stems that we just placed, and then we're going to twist it around so it's nice and secure and add a little fluff to it. Now we're going to move on to our second piece. We're going to do the exact same thing. Flip over the bottom, use your thumbs as an anchor, and walk those fingers right down the center of that mesh. Flip up the end so we can hide that cut piece. Find your center, fluff it up a little bit, and then add it right in between those 2 pipe cleaners and secure it by twisting it right in place. And I'm going to continue on doing the exact same method all around the outside. I like to work outside in. You don't have to. You can work on the inside out. But here I am adding my final ruffle to the outside, and look how beautiful it looks already. Now let's work on the inside. We're going to do the exact same method. We're not changing anything here. And then I'm just going to add it into that inside round of those stems. So our first one's going in, finding that center, placing it in between those 2 pipe cleaners and wrapping it around. And then I'm just going to work all the way around on the inside, following the same method, following the same procedure for each of our wreath deco mesh attachments. Once we're done, we can do a little fluffing, but look how gorgeous this looks already. I'm loving it already. Now what I do is I take off those little excess pipe cleaners, and I'm just going to use my scissors and chop them off. Now, I originally had beige pipe cleaners, but they are lost in my craft room. I know this happens to all of us. So I had to use these gold ones, but I wanted to hide them. So what I'm going to do is I had this little bucket or a little container of these beads, and I thought if I just put a little hot glue right on top of the pipe cleaners and then add that bead in there, that's going to cover the gold portion, and that gold won't be seen as it's covered by the bead. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and once I finish doing that, we have our base wreath all ready. All that gold pipe cleaner is covered, and we're ready for our bow making. And to create my bow today, I'm using my ruler, and I'm going to measure out 10 inches, pinch it, and then I'm going to place that into my left hand, and then I'm going to lay it back down, and I'm going to measure out 12 inches, pinch it together, and bring that back into my left hand again. So now we've created a bow at the top and a tail at the bottom. For this bow, I'm going to do 3 6-inch loops, which is the 12-inch mark, and then I'm creating a second one here. Now let's create our third. We're going to lay it down, measure out that 12 inches, bring it to our left hand, and all we have to do now, we've got our 3 loops, 1 tail. We have to create another tail. So I'm going to come out and measure the 10 inches, bring out my scissors, and I'm going to cut at that 10-inch mark. And the first bundle is already complete. We just have to attach a pipe cleaner to it. Twist that around a couple of times. Don't cut the pipe cleaner. This is how we're going to attach it to our wreath, but our first layer is done. To do the second layer, I'm going to squish it at the 8-inch mark, and I'm going to follow the exact same procedure. So I have an 8-inch tail, and this time I'm going to do 5-inch loops, and I'm going to squish it together, bringing it at the 10-inch mark, which will create those 5-inch loops. Again, I'm creating 3 loops and 1 tail, so I do the tail, and then I'm going to cut it, Then wrap that pipe cleaner around it. Again, don't cut your pipe cleaner short because this is how we're going to attach it all together, but we have our second layer all complete. For our final layer, I'm coming in at 6 inches, pinching it again. Again, this is the exact same procedure we're doing before. This time I'm using 4-inch loops, so that's an 8-inch loop that we're doing. And then we're going to do another 8 inches, and then we're going to cut our mesh, put it together, and twist with that ribbon right in there. Then I'm just going to finish it off by doing some dovetailing. And now we've got all 3 pieces ready to go. We have our pipe cleaner at the back. We'll take those pipe cleaners, wrap it around our first layer, just get that nice and secured in there, twisting it around, making sure it's nice and secure, and then I'm going to chop off the excess, not the long ones, the short ones. And then I'm going to add my final layer on there and wrap that pipe cleaner around, making sure it's nice and secure, chopping off that excess, and then we have our bow all ready to fluff, 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 because we love fluffing bows on our channel. Now it's time to attach our little nose. So this is just an upside down heart that I painted pink. I'm going to use a little hot glue, place that right in the center there to create our little pink nose on our bunny. Once that's all dry, I'm actually going to put my little bunny on an angle, and I've just attached pipe cleaners on the back using hot glue. I'm going to place those in the upright position, and then I'm just going to flip that over, feed those pipe cleaners through the back, and wrap that around a couple of those wires, getting it nice and secure. I'm going to do that for the top and the bottom. Once that's all wrapped, my little guy is all attached and ready for the final embellishments. I'm going to first start off by attaching my box. I added some burlap right in the center of that box. I'm going to glue it down using hot glue, hold it in place, and then I'm just going to attach my bow the same way we attached the little bunny there. Feed the pipe cleaner, twist it right around the back, and then we can start fluffing up that bow, creating a big, beautiful bow. Just love how this turned out. And of course, our final touches are going to be these beautiful pastel eggs. These are just styrofoam eggs. I'm using hot glue to attach them on there. And I'm also attaching some on the side, so it kind of looks like it's falling out a little bit of the basket. But here is our final wreath with our big, beautiful bow. Kind of not so traditional, bright Easter colors, but kind of a pastel to match those eggs and to match that tile bunny that we brushed on that brown to really bring out that embossed. Starting off day 2 with our 14-inch wire wreath frame, I have some floral picks from Michaels, and as well from Michaels this wired ribbon. Look at the color of this. This is 2.5-inch wire ribbon. I love the colors. A pipe cleaner, a cable tie, and some usual crafting utensils that I'm going to be using today. Here is our ribbon. I just love this ribbon, but here's a little dupe if you don't want to go out and spend the money on Michaels. The ribbon on the right is actually from the Dollar Tree. Look how close and how similar these two look. So here's a little dupe. If you like this ribbon, you can always grab it at the Dollar Tree as well for a little bit less. I'm going to start off making my bow today. And this is a double-sided ribbon, so I don't have to worry about twisting it in the middle and making sure my good side is facing one way. I'm going to place my center point at the 6 inches, and then I'm going to do roughly about a 5-inch loop to start off with. So I'm going to place my hand down, bring that ribbon over to the other side, hold that down, and then I'm going to do the 5 inches on the other side as well. So now I'm just going to count down 5 inches, place my finger down, and then I'm going to grab that ribbon on the other side and pull it over to the opposite side. And now next, I'm going to make those loops just a tad bit bigger. So I'm going to use 1 finger length between the end and the new loop. And then I'm going to bring that ribbon over and do the same thing at the other side. It's a finger length longer. And then I just continue doing that for, maybe about 5 or 6 times. And then once I'm happy with the amount of loops I'm going to have, I'm going to come over about an inch from that 6-inch mark and cut. And now I'm just going to squish that center of our bow, place it in between my thumbs and finger just to kind of get a placement and the center point. And I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to take my cable tie and I'm going to use my cable tie to adhere it. I'm not going to stick it all the way or pull it all the way tight. I want to make sure I have my center before I pull it tight. Now, if you want, you can also use a pipe cleaner. You don't necessarily have to use the cable tie. I'm just using the cable tie today because I don't want that ribbon bow to go anywhere. And then once I find that middle, I'm going to pull it nice and tight and cut off my excess. Now it's time to make my tails. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut at 18 inches 2 strips of my ribbon, and then I'm going to do 18 inches plus 2 inches, which is a 20 inch. And these are going to be my tails. So I'm going to finish off the tails with a dovetail, and all you do is you fold it in half and cut on an angle. Then I'm just going to place everything on top, squish it together in the center, fold it, and then I'm going to make a crease right in the center where I want those tails to lay. And I'm just going to squish it together and then grab my pipe cleaner, wrap it around that cable tie, give it a couple of good twists just to make sure it's attached. And inside that opening, you're going to place the tail of your bow and then give it another couple of twists, make sure it's nice and attached, nice and secure, and it's not going to go anywhere. And then you can flip that over and you can fluff it up if you want, but right now I'm not going to fluff it up until a little bit later on when we attach it to our wreath base. But there is your beautiful ribbon bow all ready for our wreath. And to make the wreath, all I'm going to do is wrap that ribbon around. I'm going to fold the ribbon over onto itself, add a little hot glue there, and then I'm just going to wrap that ribbon around. Now, in the previous episode, you saw me wrapping another wreath frame. I kind of did that one haphazardly. This one, I'm kind of taking my time wrapping the ribbon around because it's going to show. So the other one, we covered it with the pom-poms. This one here, I'm not covering it. I want it to show, and I want to make sure it looks nice and neat. Finishing off that roll that we used previously with the bow, and I'm going to start on with my second roll. So for this wreath, if you're going to do something similar, I used 2 rolls of this ribbon. Of course, I just love Easter colors. Every time I do Easter wreaths, they just make me smile because the colors are so bright and so beautiful. I'm coming to the end. I'm going to chop off the excess of my ribbon, and then I am going to add a little hot glue on that little tab there, fold it over, and glue it onto itself so it doesn't go anywhere. Once that's done, we can flip it over. And this is where I noticed that there was kind of 2 different color ribbons here. But that's okay because half of it we're covering it with a bow and half of it we're covering it with the florals. So you can see here I'm placing my bow, and then I'm just going to see my floral picks. Like I said previously in some of my videos, I do what I call a dry run. So I don't glue anything down. I just kind of plan what I'm going to do. You see here I'm separating and divvying up all my floral picks in half to see how much I want or need. And I decide I'm going to do the purple tulips, the pink tulips, and then 1 bunch of those pink flowers. I don't know the names of them, but they are beautiful. And of course, these flowers just scream spring, scream Easter in my opinion. And I'm cutting off all of the stems so I can separate them and glue them down like you're seeing here. So I'm just taking 1 stem at a time, using my glue gun tool and gluing everything down in place. And I've separated everything in half so there's an equal amount of the pink, the dark pink, the light pink, the pink flowers, and the purple tulips. And I'm going to keep adding on until I have a few of them left over. I don't add everything all at once because I want to place my bow and then I want to fill in the gaps just in case I missed anything. So here I am just using those twist ties to twist around that bow, making sure it's nice and secured and where I want it located. Once that's done, I'm going to chop off the excess, and I like to add a little hot glue to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. And here you can kind of see I do need to fill in some spaces, especially on the right-hand side. I need to add a little more flowers. That's why I keep some leftovers on hand and I don't glue them all down right at once, just so I can get an idea of what I need and where I need to fill it. And once I finished filling it all in, adding my last flower on there, I'm going to fluff up that bow. And if you've watched my channel before, you know I love fluffing bows. I can do it forever. But there you go. We have our beautiful ribbon wreath with our huge bow, those beautiful Easter colored flowers, the tulips, the pink flowers. I just love how this turned out. All the colors coordinated, and that ribbon, I just love the checkered ribbon with all of those beautiful Easter colors. Of course, with all these Easter colors, it just makes me smile. And I hope this wreath makes you smile as well, and I hope you enjoyed. Starting off day 5, we're using a 14-inch wire wreath frame, some spray paint. This is just white spray paint. I found these orange and white checkered and green and white checkered ribbon at the Dollar Tree, along with a cable tie, pipe cleaner, and some greenery from the dollar store as well. And I'm going to be using my usual crafting utensils. I'm going to start off today by spray painting my black wire frame and making it white. So this is just a white spray paint from Rust-Oleum. Here it is in all its glory and change of color. And all I'm going to do for this is I'm going to do a little weaving technique. So I'm going to unravel that orange ribbon, add a little glue down right at the end, fold it over onto itself, hold it there for a little bit until it dries, and then I'm going to start weaving. So how I'm going to weave today is I'm just going to do 1 over, 1 under, and 1 over. So that is the ribbon. The ribbon will go over the wire, then the ribbon will go under the wire like you see here, and then once I pull all that excess through, I am going to go under the wire. So it's over, under, under. That is the whole method and the whole process that I'm going to do this. I found that once I took off the ribbon from the spool, I mean, it's a lot easier because trying to fit that spool into that little space, it's kind of cramped. But you can see here when you come back, I still do that over, under method. And then at the very bottom, I bring that ribbon right through, and then I start my process all over again with that over, and under. And it is a little bit tedious with the length of ribbon, but you know what? As soon as you start going, you get your groove on, you can see it does go pretty fast. Now for me, the whole wreath took probably, I would say, less than 40 minutes. I have about 40 minutes of video. So it took me about 40 minutes or thereabout. And you can see here, once the ribbon is a little bit shorter, you get your groove on, and then you just start weaving and weaving until you come to the very end. I'm almost done my weaves, and you can see how this wreath turned out with our little ribbon here. I'm just doing my last little bit. I'm just squishing it all together, looking it around, thinking, yep, this is going to work for me. I'm going to cut off that excess, glue down that little tab there, and let's flip that wreath over and take a look at it. Look at that weaved wreath. I just love it. So I do want to have a bit of a carrot theme. That's where we're going with this wreath, but I don't want a literal carrot. So I wanted that green and white checkered to be a little bit of a ribbon mixed with the greenery. And all I'm doing to make my bow is I'm just estimating. So there's no measurements here. I'm just gathering it in loops, holding it with my left hand, folding it into loops with my right hand until I get the desired lengths that I want. So I use the entire roll for this section here. I have 2 tails. I'm going to tie it together using a cable tie, make sure it's in the center, and then I'm going to cut some tails here. Now again, I'm not measuring, I'm just estimating. I know I want to do a lot of tails for this. So what I'll do is I'll just put them together, fold it over, and then feed it through the cable tie. And then we have our abundance of tails. And I felt when I turned it over that it needed a little bit something more. So what I decided to do with the second roll of that green and white fabric is to create another little bow. And again, I'm just doing the same thing I did with the first one, eyeballing it. I didn't really measure anything. This is a little bit smaller than the one I did previously. Tying it with that cable tie, finding the center, attaching it, and then cutting off the excess. And then I'm going to cable tie the small bow onto the large bow. And this is going to make one big messy bow, that was the look that I was going for. I didn't want a perfect bow. I wanted something a little bit messy. And then to cover those cable ties, I'm just going to take a little bit of that same ribbon, add a little glue down, and I'm going to cover up that cable tie with everything glued at the back side of that ribbon. And I'm just gluing it on, holding it into place until it dries. Once that happens, then I have my bow almost ready for our wreath. So you can kind of see it's a raggedy bow. It's not perfect. The lengths are not measured, and that's exactly what I wanted. Here is our wreath, here's our bow and our greenery. And like I said, I was going for kind of a carrot feel to it. I didn't want a literal carrot, but I also didn't know where I was going to put the bow, where I was going to put the greenery. So I always say, and I always talk about doing what I call a dry run. Don't glue anything down, just do a dry run, see how you like it. Once you find a spot where you like everything, then glue it down, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. I decided to use the bottom portion for the bow and the greenery, and that's what I did. And of course, I use my bow and greenery to just kind of see the placement of everything. Once I'm happy, then I'm going to add a whole bunch of glue to that bow, stick it on that wreath, hold it down for a little bit, make sure it dries, and then I'm going to come back and add all that greenery as well. So again, this is kind of my take on a little bit of a carrot wreath. It's a little bit different. It's round instead of that triangle, but I just love how it turned out. It totally makes me smile. And of course, it is Easter, because what do Easter bunnies eat? Carrots. Here we go. And what I did at the very end is I decided just to cut my bows on an angle. Normally I cut bows using the dovetail, but I figured on an angle would be perfect. And here is my carrot-inspired wreath. The Dollar Tree has these small 8-inch wire wreath frames. They come in a pack of 2. Today I'm going to use 1, and I'm also going to use 6-inch deco mesh in 5 different colors. Pipe cleaners cut in half. I chose white. You can choose whatever color you want. A cutting mat, a rotary cutter, and if you don't have that, you can totally use scissors as well. What I'm going to do, we are going to start off making a curly loop wreath. So I cut my mesh at 7 inches. This time around, I don't need a lot of mesh, so normally I wrap it around and use my scissors to cut. This time I'm just going to cut it with my rotary cutter. And again, I'm going to cut it at the 7-inch mark in all 5 of my colors. They end up being about 6 inches by 7 inches. Once I get everything cut, I create these little piles, and then we'll start making those bundles. And of course, this didn't take too long. It seems like it does, but honestly, it took me less than 8 minutes to cut everything. Here is our list today for our curly loop. It's an 8-inch wire frame with 6 pipe cleaners cut in half, so it's a total of 10 pieces. Blue, white, green, purple, pink deco mesh. 12 pieces cut at 7-inch lengths. That's going to create 12 bundles and 5 pieces of mesh per bundle. That is our materials list that we're going to use today, which is totaling 60 pieces of mesh. We're going to create our bundle now. And what I do is I take 1 piece of that deco mesh that we just cut of each color. So I have 1 blue, 1 white, 1 green, 1 purple, and finally 1 pink. Once we have that, I'm going to lay it down curl side up, and then I'm going to take one end and I'm just going to curl it, grab it by the center, and place it in between my 2-piece fingers. I'm going to do the same thing over and over again for all 5 of my colors, creating a little tube, or as I like to joke around on my channel, a little cannoli. So we're placing those cannolis right in between our piece fingers. We're rolling it up and putting it right there, holding it down. If you don't want to use your fingers, you can use a paper clip, a large paper clip, you know, those black paper clips, and you can just clip it on there, or a clothespin works as well. Then take your pipe cleaner, run it along your palm of the hands, switch the mesh from your left to your right, and then your left is free to give it a couple of good twists. So once that's secure, you have your first bundle all made. Now we only have 11 more to go. So again, we're taking the one piece of deco mesh per color, creating our little loops with each color, our little cannolis or our little tubes, whatever you want to call them. And then I'm just placing them right in between my piece fingers, or if you have a clothespin or a paper clip, use that as well. And we're creating that curly loop method. This has to be probably one of my favorite methods to do. It is a tad bit time consuming, but again, once you get on a roll, once you get on a rhythm, you can bang these out really quickly. Once you have all of your mesh, just slide that pipe cleaner along the palm of your hands and then give it a couple of really good twists, and that creates a bundle. So we have 2 done, and you can kind of see how it's going to come together. I have 10 more to do. Once that's all done, I'm going to take my wreath frame and we're going to work on the inner 2 wires. I flip the frame over face down, and then I'm going to place my 2 pipe cleaner ends around the inner wire and the second wire, and I'm going to give it a couple of really good twists, and I'm going to move it over, and I'm going to keep going, adding my deco mesh bundles onto my wreath frame. Now, if you're going to do this on a larger scale, I do have a curly method base wreath tutorial on my channel. It's a red wreath. You can totally check it out. You're going to need more deco mesh, obviously, and that video explains everything. For this one, for each section in between those crossbars, I add 4 bundles. So in each section, there's 4 bundles times 3 sections, that's 12 bundles. So I'm going to continue on finishing off with my wreath, adding in those bundles. Here's my final one, just giving it a little twist. And I like to cut off the ends, so I'm just going to cut off the excess pipe cleaner. And once I do that, this is obviously not mandatory, you don't have to do this. I add a little bit of glue right on the ends to make sure they don't go anywhere. And while that's all drying, I have my vase to decorate with these colorful eggs, some of that grass straw, the paper straw, and I found this bunny set, paint your own bunny set, and I loved the bunnies in there. They were white, it worked perfect, and of course I have my vase from the Dollarama as well. This is all dry, so I'm just going to put that right off to the side for now. I'm not going to use it yet, but look at how beautiful and full that looks so far. Let's grab that vase and let's decorate it. I chose some different paper filler. I don't know what you call this, paper grass. There's a purple and pink that I'm going to put in there first. You can see me putting that in there. And then I'm just going to throw in a whole bunch of those decorative and beautifully colored eggs. They're very matte, so I love these eggs, but I mean, you could put glitter eggs in there if you want. Adding some more straw at the top, or paper straw. This is yellow and green. And let's open up and see these bunnies. Look how cute they are. I decided to go with the one right at the far right there, and I'm just going to stick him right on top. Look at how this turned out. So colorful, so Eastery. I just love how it turned out. And here's the magic. Grab that wreath form, put the vase right through, and instantly you have a colorful, beautiful Easter centerpiece all ready to go. I'm trying to hold it up on its side. It's not working out very well. But here is the full centerpiece in all of its glory with that little bunny right up top, our Easter eggs, and of course that colorful curly deco mesh right at the bottom using that 8-inch wreath frame. And here it is, just on its own, our little curly loop method Wreath. I just love the colors of Easter and I love the colors of this wreath. Let's kick off day 7 with this white kind of grapevine wreath, a artist panel from the Dollarama, some eggs in a bag, nice decorative eggs, pink florals, and I have blue florals as well. To create this wreath, I'm using this ceramic bunny, and I'm going to use some acrylic paint in white, a paintbrush, and my regular crafting utensils today. First thing I'm going to do is I'm taking that wood artistic panel and I'm going to paint it white. So this is just plain white acrylic paint. You can get this at any of the dollar stores along with the paintbrush as well. I paint the top. I'm going to paint all the sides as well. And once I'm done painting all of the sides and the top, I'm just going to let it completely dry. Once it's dry, I'm going to grab my white wreath frame. And this is just a wood wreath frame. It's a small one. It's about maybe 9 inches, 10 inches. And what I decide to do to attach it to the wood panel is use a screw. Now you can see I'm fumbling around. It wasn't the greatest thing to do, but it was the most secure thing to do in the end. So I'm very happy I did this instead of gluing. I was contemplating whether to do a wood glue or just a wood hot glue. In the end, the screw was actually a really great choice, but it was very secure. And once I get that nice and secure, I kind of was annoyed with the silver screw. I'm not going to lie. I kept looking at it. It's kind of hidden and it would have been hidden, but I decided, you know what? I'm just going to take a little paintbrush with a little bit of acrylic paint and I'm just going to paint the head of that silver screw. You can kind of see there. It's a little bit more hidden. It's not so much in your face. So that just made me a lot happier in the end. Now I'm just going to find placement of where I want to put that ceramic bunny. I didn't paint it. It just came white. Just as you see it is how I purchased it, and I glued that on there. Now I'm just going to separate and cut up my blue florals and the pink florals, and I'm going to get all ready to start adding those florals on there. What I decide to do is I'm going to do the blue florals first, add those on there. Kind of a little bit of a dry run, but at the same time I wanted this to be, you know those English gardens? They're full of flowers. They look overgrown, but there's still something organized about the chaos. Does that make sense? I love English gardens, and that's kind of the look I was going for today. I wanted something a little bit less organized and less methodical, which I love, don't get me wrong, but I wanted a little bit of chaos here. Let's say a little bit of natural chaos. So I'm just semi doing a dry run, but at the same time I'm just gluing everything down. So you can see I pick it up, I take a look at it, see how it looks. Do I need more? Do I need less? And then I start adding in those pink flowers every now and then as well. I used 2 bunches of the blue flowers and 2 bunches of the pink flower to make this. I started off doing the wreath portion first, and then I'm going to work on the stand. But look how this is coming out. This is exactly what I had pictured in my mind. And you can't see my face right now when I'm looking at it, but I was smiling like crazy. I brought in the eggs to see if I wanted to use them, and they didn't really go with the theme or what I wanted. So I know I showed them in my materials list in the beginning, but I did not end up using them in the end. And you know what? That's totally cool. It happens sometimes. You get going and you kind of put something down there and you're like, yeah, this doesn't work. And you either take it off or you try again. You've seen in a previous video where I have attached eggs to the burlap bag and I took them off. I do that all the time. But here I am finishing off with adding those florals on there, adding the last ones, and look at this. I have to say, this just made me smile. I was so happy with it. It turned out exactly how I wanted with those florals and that cute little bunny. It's very simple, very elegant, very classic, and yet it still screams Easter to me. And I hope you enjoy this wreath as well. Look at all those florals. And again, all of these supplies came from the dollar store. Can you believe it? A high-end looking Easter wreath. And here we go with an 18-inch grapevine wreath that I got from Michaels. And I've got these floral roses from the Dollar Tree. I have 5 stems in total. I found these eggs, buy one, get one free at Michaels. I have some leftover Halloween burlap that I'm going to be using, some cardboard recycled from an old box, computer paper, and a pencil. And of course, I'm going to be using my regular crafting utensils. I'm going to first start off attaching my eggs. So this is one package of the eggs along with my grapevine wreath form. Oh, geez, say that 10 times fast. Grapevine wreath form. And I'm just gluing them willy-nilly right at the bottom there. And I'm just spacing them out a little bit because I know I want to get some greenery, so I'm not going to fill them or attach them too closely. So once they're all on there and all dry, I am going to take my floral picks. And they had these little fern leaves on them, so I'm going to separate those. And all you have to do is pull them off. It's really easy. So I take all those fern leaves off, and then I start gluing them down. And I'm just placing them every now and then, just kind of no plan, just putting them in there because I'm going to be layering it. So we're layering it with the eggs, layering it with the fern leaves, then we're going to add another layer using our yellow roses. So right now I'm just on my second layer of our fern leaves and I'm happy with how this all turned out. I pick it up, take a look at it. It's always good to see a different angle of your creation. And then I'm just going to cut off those roses. And normally I would just pull them off, but these were attached, so I had to actually cut them off. And I actually had to use some of my wire cutters as well. And then again, willy-nilly, I'm just going to add those rosebuds in there. And I loved how they weren't too bright or too dull. They were kind of like the perfect match. The eggs are a little bit of a matte, and so were the roses. So I was really happy with those. And again, I'm just filling in the areas with those roses. Once I need more, I'm going to go and use and cut some more of those roses once I glue them down. I used a total of 3.5 stems. I know I purchased 5. I used a total of 3.5 to make this wreath with all these little rosebuds and the ferns. I'm almost done adding all those rosebuds in, and here we go. I just love how this turned out. I was so happy with it. You know when you have a thought in your mind and it's working out and you're just excited and happy. Here we go. I'm going to create a template now for my bunny. If you remember in the original video, or sorry, I should say in the first little half of this, I showed the Michaels wreath that had a wooden bunny. So I'm going to take cardboard and I'm going to draw an outline of a bunny. And then I'm just going to cut it out using my X-Acto knife. So first I did a little trace. Now I'm cutting it out. Once it's all cut out, I'm going to cut off a little piece of that burlap fabric. And this is, I think it's 5 inches, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 5-inch wide burlap ribbon garland. And now I'm just adding some hot glue on the outline of that bunny that's made out of cardboard. And I'm going to stick that burlap on. But I'm not going to use my fingers because the last time I did this, I burned them like crazy. So I'm going to use my little handy dandy tool first. And then I'm going to continue on adding a little bit more. Once that glue's all on there and the burlap's nice and dry, I'm going to use my scissors and cut out around my bunny, creating a little rustic bunny. It's not the wood bunny that I'm duping from the Michaels wreath, but it's rustic, it's cute, and it's my own little version, let's put it that way. I'm going to trim off my bunny, and I'm going to decide where I want to put it. I'm going to do a little bit of a dry run to see how we go. And then once I decide where I'm going to put it, I'm just going to take a whole bunch of hot glue, add it at the back there, and then I'm going to attach that burlap bunny onto that grapevine wreath. I'm going to hold it there for a little bit, pick it up. I love how it turned out, and I hope you did as well. And really, remember that wreath right at the beginning that I'm doing the dupe for? So here it is again at $59.99 from Michaels. Here is Dave's dupe for a little bit less. And of course, I think those are the same eggs. On the left is Michael's, on the right is Dave's dupe. And of course, Michael's is at $59.99 and mine came in at $25.48. A little bit less than half the price. And I don't know about you, but I love the fullness of my wreath. Maybe I'm biased, but hey, that's okay. Plus, I created this all on my own, using my own two hands. Thank you so much for joining me today while I showed you some of my past favorite Wreathster videos and wreaths. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I upload a new project. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye for now.